Now. Perfect. So once again, hello everyone. You're all very welcome to this webinar, Pathways to PE Teaching. My name is Hannah Murphy, Digital Marketing Executive of Portobello Institute. We have an array of esteemed speakers here tonight, and I'd like to welcome and introduce you to, first of all, Dr. Liam Clohessy, Programme Lead of PE here in Portobello Institute. We also have Shane Walsh, BA Honours Student in PE here in Portobello Institute, and also Galway GA Star. We also have Saoirse Leahy, past student of Portobello Institute and current PME student in University Limerick. So it'll be fantastic to hear her pathways. We also have Kerry McGill, Senior Lecturer of PE in Liverpool John Moore University. And last but by no means least, our very own Anthony Sheriff, tutor in PE, who's also actually a past student of Liverpool John Moore University. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone so much for their time on the behalf of Portobello Institute for coming here today. We are very conscious of everyone's time, so there will be a sharp stop at 8 p.m. After a Q&A session. However, we have our sports admin advisor here, Sade Sebastian, who will put her details in the chat box, and she'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have if you think of them after the webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Liam Clohessy. Thank you, Liam.
Thanks very much, Hannah, and you're very welcome, everyone. We're delighted that you've come along this evening to hear about, I suppose, different pathways to PE teaching and, I suppose, some of the courses that we have on offer here in Portobello Institute, and just outlining different ways that you can work towards a career in teaching physical education. So what I'm going to do to start us out this evening is I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the different programs that we have here available in Portobello Institute, and just outline how I suppose these could be useful pathways towards a career in PE teaching. And then we'll discuss as we're going through the webinar some people's experiences of how they've gone on these different pathways, just to provide insights to anyone who's potentially thinking about a career in this in the future. And it's always an exciting time thinking about starting something new. So hopefully we'll be able to give a few insights that'll be helpful to you guys this evening. So I'm just going to share my screen here, first of all, just to give a little bit of insight into our courses here. So hopefully we can all see that. So yeah, we'll start off just as I said, outlining very briefly the courses we have here in Portobello Institute in this area. So I'm going to talk firstly about our BA in Physical Education. So this is a 3-year level 8 honours degree, and we're delighted to be partnering with Liverpool John Moores University on this programme, and we'll have a great opportunity here from Kerry later as well from Liverpool John Moores. So it's a great partnership, and that we're able to link in and work together and to deliver a really high quality programme. So as we mentioned, it's a 3 years degree. It can be done full time, or it can be done through blended learning. So when we talk about full time, that's where you're up and you're in college during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, attending on site on campus in Dublin. So that's the one option, but also I suppose a big part of Portobello Institute's philosophy is to make learning accessible. So we do also offer a blended learning program, whereby you'll be able to balance perhaps study with other commitments that you might have currently during the week, so for example working or whatever it may be. So the blended learners work on weekends, so Saturdays, Sundays classes. So we'll talk a little bit about each of those as we're working through. But first, to give you a kind of a flavor of the course and what you'll be learning, and you'll see here some of the modules that you see down the left-hand side. So there's huge opportunities to think about big areas in terms of physical education. So we think about things like skill acquisition. So how do we learn best? How do I get better at a skill? Is it through being shown demonstrations and given really specific feedback? Is it about discovering it for myself? So these will be some of the big questions that you'll be thinking about in things like skill acquisition. We look at physiology then as well. So different training principles, how we can train our body in different ways, whether that be endurance training, resistance training, how our body responds to those changes, learning about the different systems within the body that will give us a better insight into how we can, develop and learn, and use that within a PE context. Also, we'll explore other avenues, things like applied pedagogy. So again, looking at different teaching styles Do I, direct instruction where we're very explicit in showing, the correct technique and asking a person to follow and mimic that, up to something like guided or divergent discovery, where we're helping a person or facilitating a person to find out on their own, discover for themselves the best way to perform a particular skill or task, and thinking about what is the best way, and does it depend on the context? Does it depend on the students that we're working with? So these are all things that we'll think about, as well as delving into the different curricula in physical education, teacher education. So we'll talk about primary physical education and what's on the curriculum here in Ireland. And there's been really positive changes upcoming in that area. But also the secondary physical education curriculum will be a very major focus throughout the whole course. So looking at the different curricula we have, so we have a new junior cycle program for physical education starting next year. We've had a very recently a new senior cycle physical education. And of course, I'm sure you've all heard about Leaving Cert physical education as well. So it's a really exciting time for physical education here in Ireland, with so many positive changes and so much of an emphasis coming on it in our schools, both at primary and secondary level. So again, you'll have an opportunity to delve in and to explore those different curricula and see what they're like, as well as other elements, contemporary issues in physical education. So again, thinking about things like ethics and fair play in sport, participation, gender, inclusion, diversity, all these things, I suppose, that helps us think about how we can make our classroom an engaging and inclusive space for all the students that we'll hopefully be working with. And in your final year, you'll also have an opportunity to engage in some research around an area of physical education or a related area of interest to yourself, obviously guided with the support of the teaching staff here in Portobello Institute. So that's just kind of give you some of the flavor of the key things that you'll be thinking about and exploring. And again, it's really interesting course. And if you're interested in the whole area of physical activity, sport, physical education, there's lots of, connections, and I think it's something that you'll really enjoy thinking about. So just in terms of the practicalities of what it looks like, so there's theory and practical classes in a variety of our Dublin City Centre venues. So our theory classes will take place in Portobello Institute itself, but also a lot of our practical classes take place in nearby halls and sports centres. So we use Trinity Sports Centre, Gloucester Street Sports Centre, all within walking distance of Portobello Institute and all within Dublin City Centre's area. So again, it's really nice in terms of the course that you think about that theory, but then it's as with physical education, it is a practical subject. You need to get out in the hall and to think about what that looks like in a practical context. So again, you'll have lots of opportunities to observe other people teaching, for you to practice teaching with your peers in your class, but also there'll be built-in opportunities across the different years to work with local schools in the area as well. So again, that's what it looks like. Again, if you're on the full time, this will take place during the week. If you're on the blended program, you will have weekend classes, and some of those weekend classes will be online, and some of them will be in our Dublin City Centre venues as well. So again, just to highlight that mix that is there. Again, we have a number of our students are commuting, that mightn't be living in Dublin and from the surrounding areas. So again, it is manageable for sure. Because there is that balance of, the online, but also the vital importance of attending the practical sessions here with us in as well. Also, there's lots of opportunities for work placement across the different years of the program. So in year one, you're looking at around 5 days or an equivalent number of hours, again, to support engagement, maybe. Ideally, we're looking at a school, but also you could work up those hours in a physical activity setting, and in the weekends and the evenings that's possible around that area too. But ultimately, we're, I suppose, trying to support you to get experience within a school setting. So year one, 5 days, where it's primarily more shadowing, and moving up to year two, where you're looking at 15 days, where again, you're having a more proportion of the time where you're going to be leading more classes independently, and up to year 3 where you'll be leading the majority of it independently, obviously linking in with the classroom teacher. So again, there's lots of really hands-on practical experience that our students really enjoy and find beneficial when you get that opportunity to go out and to visit schools as part of this course. So in terms of the pathways that might provide you engaging in something like the BA in Physical Education here with ourselves, so it's a 3-year program, and I suppose you are ultimately working towards full Teaching Council registration, and to do that you will need to have a postgraduate add-on. So an option could be through the University of Limerick and the Professional Masters in Education, the PME program, and we've got Saoirse with us here this evening. She's taken that route and is currently on that route, and she'll speak to you about her experiences in that regard. Or another option could be as well linking in with our partners, Liverpool John Moores University, or potentially other universities in the UK, whereby again, having completed your BNP, that you would carry on to PGCE in the UK, and again that can lead towards your registered teacher status. And again, we're delighted to have Kerry from Liverpool John Moores University, who will speak to us later, and Anthony Sheriff as well, one of our current tutors here in Portobello Institute, and who himself in the past had followed quite a similar route. So that's the BA&P, and I'm just going to very briefly also introduce you to the Graduate Diploma in Physical Education. So this is a postgraduate program, so for someone who has already completed a degree. And again, this provides an opportunity for you to upskill and develop your expertise in the area of physical education. So the topics that you will cover, a lot of them are similar to what you would explore in the BA&P, but it is a little bit more condensed in that it's over the course of 2 semesters. So we're looking at things again like skill acquisition. So how do we learn best? Is it through observation and feedback, or is it through creating an environment where a person learns from themselves? We'll look at different aspects of pedagogy. So pedagogy is, how we teach, the best approaches to teach. So not just what we teach, but how we teach. So we'll look at that using different curriculum models and different approaches that perhaps will provide more autonomy to students in their learning that might set them up for a physically active life. So we'll look at things like that. And again, the contemporary issues is another module. And across all our courses, you will explore this through a variety of content areas that the curriculum talks about. So through games, through athletics, through dance, through outdoor adventure activities, through aquatics activities. And again, you'll have experiences in those. So for example, we've had students this year have an opportunity to work in a pool setting in terms of aquatics, but also to visit like a bouldering and rock climbing center to look at outdoor adventure activities. So again, these are all things that will be built into the courses. In terms of the graduate diploma, there's a placement element as well, where you're looking at approximately 15 days of placement, but there is a little bit of leeway here in terms of related practice. So for example, there might be some people already working in schools who already have significant experience, and we can have a look at that in terms of that requirement. So again, that's something that's kind of judged on an individual basis. Across both our programs, there's a variety of assessment methods. So we have lots of, I suppose, what you might associate with more traditional assessments. So we have things like portfolios, essays, exams, but also we have opportunities for individual and group presentations, as well as really practical elements to our assignments as well. So you might be talking about a theory in an essay for one part of your assessment of a module, but the next part could be you teaching an element of the approach that you are learning about to your peers or to your class. Or it might be you producing a set of lesson plans. So again, it is a really nice practical aspect to the assessments that gives you lots of opportunities to showcase your expertise, that is not just the written, and yes, that element is important too, but you have an opportunity to show, through your practical and through presentations, your expertise as well. So in terms of pathways for the graduate diploma as a kind of a postgraduate route, so there's kind of 2 different ones here we'll briefly finish on. So for example, you could be a sports or a non-sports graduate. So for example, you might have done a course like sports science or sports and leisure, or a kind of a related course, sports management. And you could use then the graduate diploma to give you that additional physical education expertise that would be required to apply for a postgraduate course. So for example, the PME down in UL, or to our colleagues in Liverpool, John Moores University. And again, that then will hopefully lead on for you to your fully qualified, fully registered teacher status in terms of physical education. So again, it's providing that pathway, as I said, for entrance to a lot of those postgraduate courses. You need to have a certain amount of credits in terms of physical education, and the graduate diploma will provide you with what is needed in that regard. Other maybe cohort people we might have this evening might be someone who's already a teacher, already teaching in a school, but perhaps teaching in another subject area, and they're interested in maybe adding physical education to their remit, or they might already be asked to teach some physical education. So by engaging in the graduate diploma, again, it's firstly giving you some expertise that will help you with that. You will explore different elements of the curricula for sure, that will hopefully help you in your day-to-day teaching. And then depending on your background, it is probably likely that you will still need some additional credits. So for example, we've had students do the graduate diploma here with us, and they might have to do, we'll say, 1 or 2 modules from the PME course, for example. So rather than having to do a full 2-year PME, it might be just an extra top up of certain elements that the Teaching Council from your background judges you feel you need to add. And again, the teaching council do judge or do, I suppose, deal with everyone on an individual basis. So again, it's hard to give kind of fully definitives, but we can definitely draw on our past experience of working with students who have, gone through the path, and to advise as best we can towards that. But again, it can be quite specific to a person's background. But generally speaking, these routes have been tried and tested, and people have gone down some of these routes before. So hopefully, it is an option for people going forward. So that kind of concludes my part, where I'm just kind of introducing you guys to those 2 different courses, the BA in PE, the Graduate Diploma in PE, and providing an overview of the pathways that could lead you to fully registered teacher status. Our speakers who are going to carry on this evening will hopefully give you a flavour of some of those different pathways, and that there are different pathways. That it's important to remember that if it's your passion to be a physical education teacher and to get into that, there are ways and means, and if one door closes, another might open. So again, just to highlight those, and I look forward to, if you have any questions around any of those pathways or any of those elements of the course, please do add them into the chat, and I'll be hanging around here, and I'll be delighted to answer as best we can any of those later on. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass back to you, Hannah, to give us introduce us to our next speaker.
Brilliant, Liam. That was brilliant and really insightful. Thanks so much for that, Liam. So next up we have Shane Walsh, BA Honours and PE student here in Portobello Institute, and also Galway GA star. First of all, Shane, big congrats on the win on Sunday. You must be delighted.
Thanks very much, Anna. Great to be into Connacht final. 8 Connacht final now in the row now, so it's nice achievement for the team. So hopefully now we can add another Connacht medal in a few weeks.
Absolutely, massive achievement. So Liam, Shane, tell us about, I suppose, your pathway. Like, why did you pick PE, and I suppose what brought you here today?
Yeah, I suppose, look, for me, I probably came a different pathway to maybe someone that's coming out of school, but it just goes to show there's the accessibility to do what you want to do in life presented itself when I suppose I had been in the bank for probably 5 years there, and I suppose COVID came and kind of had to think about where I was at, and looked at different avenues of where I could go, and I obviously saw PE as a big thing I suppose that I wanted to do from when I was a young age, and it was kind of looking at avenues and how to go there, and from having conversations with our guidance counselor at the time, I suppose it prompted Portobello Institute came up, and I suppose from there it was kind of very straightforward for me because I got in contact with Joanna. She was very helpful there, and after a couple of phone calls, then she basically went through everything with me from head to toe, answered any questions I had in relation to the accessibility of the course, and what it entailed, I suppose, and just I suppose then for me, probably that was after those conversations, it made it a lot easier for me to say that this is where I want to go. Like, this is going to be pursuing what I want to do, and Yeah, no, it's been great. I said since I started. I suppose the biggest help has probably been the tutors in the college, because for me going back to college, I wouldn't have experienced college before really. I spent maybe a couple of weeks in GMIT years ago, not knowing what I was going to do at the time, whereas now I kind of come back in and assignments, exams, all these sort of things were coming at me, and I was kind of like, oh God. But in fairness, like they've been very supportive, like between doing presentations and even just getting ready for assignments and the referencing styles and stuff like that. That was all relatively new to me because I hadn't done any schoolwork in a good few years. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest adaptation I had to make, was just getting around that. And then I suppose from there it was just all about learning the different things that was going on. And even like from there, even Anthony was my applied pedagogy lecturer in first year, like. And Joe, when I saw the words, I was nearly looking, scratching my head saying, what's that, like. And in fairness, like Joe, when it's broken down, I suppose that's the experts, the tutors are, that they were able to help us in that regard. And it just made life a lot easier for me, because when you're making a move, probably at my stage of my life, probably a lot of people are probably settled in jobs and stuff like that, and they have their career path. But like for me, I suppose I was a bit later getting to that stage, but it was actually a great stage for me, because it allowed me then to pursue it. And it's been great for me since, because now, like, that Joe, we're nearly at completion of our second year there and heading into third year, like. And the time has flown, in fairness. And it's just great, like the just for LGMU to be granting us this as well. It's just like, it's all, I suppose, our stepping stone then into, I see Saoirse there is down in UL doing her degree down there, and it's brilliant. Like, it's just, for me, it's something that I'm going to, I suppose, keep working away at in the next year and a half here. And no, it's been the right move for me, I say, because like the thing with, I suppose, my life balance at the moment, like coming in with GA there as well, like, it's obviously football has been a big part of my life. And the fact that you had the choice of the blended or the full-time course, and what would work best for you. And for me, then obviously the full-time was the perfect one for me, because I was able to balance it during the week and be able to get down for training. And it makes things a lot easier, like, because you're kind of living that. You don't want to be kind of, I suppose, taking away something to do something else. And I don't feel like that would help you fulfill what you're trying to do, because I don't think you'd enjoy it as much. Whereas the fact that you're able to balance it well, and the supports that are there for you as well, it just makes it so much more, like, I suppose you want to approach the course, and you feel it's just so accessible that you're able to say, "Geez, yeah, this is ideal," like, because I'm able to do both. I'm able to work around it. And then, like, for me, then it was a new experience last year going out on placement. Even like I just look back in first year, and the few weeks we spent out in a school there, like. And it was weird, because like I've been in settings with going to underage trainings and stuff like that, but when the kids are solely relying on you, it's a different scenario. I saw that with the teachers there, and obviously then you're trying to get into that. And it was great to have that kind of experience. And like, now in motion placement again, sitting with you there in the restaurant being talky. It's been brilliant. Like, it's very enjoyable. They're getting to meet the kids, seeing the different ways they have to learn, because like, one size doesn't fit all when you're teaching kids. Like, everyone has different ways that they're going to pick stuff up. Like. And it's just great to see, like, some people see it by visual, some are by doing. And like, from the stuff that we do in the college course, you see how relatable it is, and you're actually able to, like, go prepared there to say, well, if this doesn't work, try this. If this doesn't work, so it's just the different avenues. And like, it's amazing, really. Like, I would never have thought it when I first started, like, exactly. In some ways I look back to my own days when I was young lad, and just how much it's advanced, how much has changed. And no, it's been great. And yeah, no, I'm thoroughly enjoying it now, and it's flying by.
Brilliant, Shane. And it's fantastic to hear that, like, I suppose that you can play GA at the highest level, but still fulfill your career and your education. So it's fantastic to hear that you can juggle both. So that's fantastic, Shane. Thank you so much for sharing that. So yes, so next up we have Saoirse Leahy. So Saoirse was actually a student of ours in PE, and now she's actually gone on to do her PME in University Limerick. It'll be fantastic to hear, I suppose, how I suppose, her 360 experience from Portobello Institute to UL. So you're very welcome, Saoirse. Thanks for coming today.
No problem. So yeah, to be fair, I've had a great experience in Portobello Institute, and I suppose obviously getting into UL is probably one of the biggest achievements of my life, but I wouldn't be able to be in UL without Portobello Institute essentially. So likewise, I actually started off in college in Maynooth, doing a course straight after leaving cert. Had no real passion for it, just decided to take a course because all my friends were going to college and didn't want to be by myself, and dropped out, just knew it wasn't for me. Then I found out about Portobello Institute, so I started in 2019, finished college May 2022, and then graduated in October 22 from Grove Park. So in our final year of college, we did have to put in the applications for UL, and then by I think March is when we kind of got the interviews for it, and then in May is when I found out that I was accepted. So I suppose my experience in Portobello was just a little bit different with COVID. So we only actually had our first year in Portobello, and then the rest of it was online. So I was home in Leitrim. So I think I actually had Anthony for one of my modules in Portobello, but yeah, it's, to be honest, it's been a roller coaster, and it feels like it's been going on forever. But when you do it with this pass, like let's just say for any person who's thinking about doing it straight from school, if you get into your master's in, let's just say in UL, it's a total of 5 years instead of 4 if you're doing it through an undergrad, or I'm not sure if it's a 1-year degree in Liverpool or if it's 2. So really and truly, like, you could only spend 4 or 5 years at it if you kind of decide to go into Portobello straight away. Sorry, Hannah, anything else? I can talk about the kind of the process of getting into.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Please, yeah.
So in relation to the interview, I suppose yet again it was done online just because of COVID, or we're coming out of COVID, but they actually give you a set of interview questions before you're going in, so it's not just completely blind. But definitely all the work that we did in Portobello helped essentially guide me through that interview. So essentially some of the questions are your motivations of becoming a teacher. So whether that's, a great experience you had in primary or secondary school, or you've wanted to be it all along. So obviously you answer honestly to that question. The other one, I think it was about the skills and the talents that you bring as a teacher to the school. So I suppose that's completely to do with yourself as well. For me, I think I said something about working with the under-20 Leitrim County team, doing their sports analysis. So that definitely related to the contemporary issues and sports module that we covered in Portobello, because obviously there's not a lot of women maybe doing that. So I suppose I was able to bring that to the PE aspect of the school, which also correlates to the Leaving Cert PE curriculum that they're doing at the moment, because there actually is sports analysis themes on that. So yet again, it's just about finding something that relates to yourself in those questions. Then it will ask you essentially about your past schooling experience. So whether you had a positive one or a negative one. To be honest, in UL, they're very focused on both positive and negative experience, very focused about reflecting on your life, reflecting on pretty much everything, to be honest. So being as open and transparent in an interview, especially if you're doing it with the head of PE, is what I would advise anyway. And then I think that the last question was about your views on the teaching subject of PE in secondary school context. So yet again, I would advise looking at the curriculum outlines that the Department of Education have for the subject. Honestly, they'll be your saving graces through both Portobello and if you decide to go on to the Masters. I suppose even in the Masters itself, there's people from all walks of life in the Masters. It's not something that you have to have a certain degree to get into. I think there was one other person who did the initial degree with myself who got into the Masters, and even though we only had one short year together, we become very good friends from it. And yet again, that's from Portobello. And then, but there's people who did the credits course, as well. They've got in, so they had to do a stepping stone to get into UL through Portobello. So I think it was 8 months or so that they spent in Portobello to get the initial credits for the teaching council. So yeah, to be honest, it's been a very good experience, and in regards to the tutors and the lecturers in Portobello, they've been nothing but helpful. If you have any circumstances or anything might be going on in your life, they're always helpful and always would lend an ear. So yeah, honestly, can't be more thankful for my experience in Portobello, and hopefully in the next year or so I'll be qualified PE teacher.
Absolutely, Sarah. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you. And it's great to hear, I suppose, your tips and tricks as well. I'm sure everyone on the call will find that really useful. And it's great as well to hear, I suppose, the support you got in Portobello, and I suppose helped you be where you are today. So that was great to hear. So thanks so much, Sarah. That was great. So next up we have Kerry McGill, Senior Lecturer in PE in LJMU, also known as Liverpool John Moore University. You're very welcome, Kerry. Thanks for joining us today.
That's okay. Are my slides there? Are they ready to go?
I will upload them now.
Oh, yeah.
No problem at all. Going to, sorry, everyone, just bear with us here now.
Well, good evening, everybody, and it's really interesting to hear those insights about the courses and the experiences that you've had. So you're absolutely right. They'll be really useful tips for you to think about. And I'll just share some insight really from our perspective here at Liverpool John Moores University and some of the different routes and pathways into teaching. I haven't got that. There we go. It's coming up now. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, so you've probably heard the terms PGCE and PGDE sort of interchangeably so far this evening. And just to clarify, really, we offer a number of different routes here at Liverpool John Moores University as a postgraduate course. And they mainly relate to the PGCE route, which links to Schools Direct programme and a Salary Direct Schools Direct programme as well. And you can apply for these courses through the Department for Education in England, and they're very much home-based within a school. So I guess really from your perspective coming through the opportunity to study in England, the sort of key and most straightforward route would be the postgraduate diploma in education, which I'll run through now. So the postgraduate diploma in education at Liverpool John Moores University, that sits within the School of Education, and that's headed up by Camilla Cole, who's our lead secondary programme, and deputy leader there, Andrea Platt. And please feel free to make any contact with them. Unfortunately, they were unable to be here this evening, but they will welcome any sort of interest or comments, queries that you may have to support any future decisions that you have. Okay, so a little bit about the course outline. So it's a year course. It starts early in September and finishes in late June. The reason it being that it starts very early in September is that's obviously to coincide with the school intake, because it's very much being in a school environment, getting as much experience as you can, in addition to supporting and advancing upon the module content that you've learnt at the undergraduate level. It is a qualification that will enable you to have your QTS. So there's QTS awarded at the end of that 12-month intense programme, with the view of then going on to teaching. As it is a postgraduate diploma in education, you are acquiring those credits at master's level. So basically you're finishing with 120 credits that will enable you to then go into and have a top-up course, if you like, in a subject area of your choice, or to continue that within education. The reason that the PGD was introduced is in a way to raise the standards of education within school. And I know if you're going through the Teaching Irish Council format or structure, if you like, in Ireland, it almost bring things on a par there. But as I mentioned earlier, it's very much in a school environment, linked with some lecture time, face-to-face with tutors at the university here in John Moores. And normally we have 4 days in a school placement, and then 1 day a week you'd be in that school environment. And what we use is the homeschool model, where from September time you will be based in a school that you're familiar with, in terms of you've had choice, where you are, location, travel, all that sort of consideration. You'll be in that school till Christmas alongside your modules. You'll then go to a different school after Christmas up until February, end of February, early March, and then you go back to your home school, okay, your beginning school. In terms of the course itself, as Liam's already mentioned as well, there's lots of different modules that you'll be studying, but you're advancing on them, such as your skill acquisition, your contemporary issues, learning about professional practice, how to conduct yourself in front of the children, how do children learn, and really more than anything, it's that applied practice. So you're advancing on those key skills and applying that practice within that school environment. And also just to sort of support some of those comments as well, it's by no means sort of an easy way into teaching. It is a very intense year, and a lot of our students say, you know, it is very sort of time consuming, it's full on, it's constant sort of doing your lesson planning, it's updating portfolio, adding to your experiences. So real sort of intense, full on course, but obviously the rewards at the end of it being that qualified teacher and ready to teach in that school environment. So particularly within our local area, we have those great partnership with key schools, and that's in the greater sort of Merseyside area, such as Holton, Sefton. I'm not sure if some of you are familiar with Liverpool or certainly like the area. Lots of our students who come through on the undergraduate route don't want to leave, and hence many of them choose to go on to do the PGDE with us here in Liverpool. So again, just to finish, and hopefully that sort of hits a few sort of notes and queries that you might have, but please feel free to contact our programme leaders at Liverpool John Moores University, or I can hang around if there's any questions later on the call.
That's great, Kerry. Thank you so much. And it was great to hear about, I suppose, all the different partnerships it has as well. So that was fantastic. So thank you so much, Kerry. And then now we have last but by no means least, we have our very own Anthony Sheriff, tutor here in Portobello Institute. You're very welcome, Anthony. Thanks again for joining us as well.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just give my route into education, really, because I know there's plenty of people on this call and plenty of people will watch it back as well. And, you know, I suppose the traditional route may not suit them. They might be looking for other pathways into PE teaching. And I certainly took the scenic route, I suppose. So I went down the UK route. So again, if some people will be interested in doing that, hopefully what I'm about to tell them now will, you know, might just might help them a bit in their journey. So similarly to what Shane said, I didn't actually go to college till I was probably a bit younger than Shane, but I was, I think, 22 or 23 before I went to college first. I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. The only things I ever really enjoyed properly in school was sport and PE, which probably should have actually been a bit of a clue as to what I wanted to do. But yeah, it didn't go till I was like 22 or 23. And it wasn't a decision I took lightly where to study. I actually looked at all of the courses available that delivered PE. And I can genuinely hand on heart say that Liverpool John Moores University was the real standout option for me. I just loved the way they blended the practical sessions with the tutors and the theory side of things, the placement opportunities they had. And to be honest, what I found then, it actually exceeded my expectations. All of the tutors were fantastic there. And actually looking back, I think that's when I actually started to think myself, you know, I'd actually like to get into lecturing myself as a result of, you know, the impact that the LJMU tutors actually had on me. It's an absolutely fantastic university, and I can't honestly recommend it enough. Also, a fantastic city to live in as well. I can't, just to echo what Kerry-Ann said there as well, in my opinion, the greatest city in the world, the home of the greatest football team in the world as well, which I know Shane staunchly disagrees with me on, but being a Man United fan, but anyone that goes there like that, they really don't really want to leave. It's great. So the city, the university, everything about it, I really would recommend. My experience of doing PE in John Moores, the placement opportunities were fantastic. So I can't remember exactly how many hours we had to do. So it was roughly around 100 hours we had to do in our final year. So we were actually encouraged to try stay on in that school as well. You know, in a voluntary role afterwards, just to gain that experience. And that's something I encouraged to stay on in a voluntary role after they complete their compulsory number of placement hours, just to gain a bit of invaluable experience. You know, you're seeing outstanding PE teachers delivering PE, and just that day-to-day interaction with the kids you get yourself as well. It's invaluable and stuff that you can't really get, I suppose, in a lecture hall. So I did my placement in a secondary school when I was in LJMU, but just being a student over there needed that little bit of extra cash on the hip as well. So I was also just on the weekends and after school doing sports coaching with primary school children in Liverpool, and, you know, Easter camps, things like that. And this was just personal to me, but I actually found that I preferred teaching PE to primary school kids as opposed to secondary school kids. Again, just a personal preference I had. I know everyone is different, but what I actually went on to study, and I did a PGCE in primary education with PE specialism. So for anyone listening to this now, they might not be aware of the big difference between PE in primary school in the UK as opposed to in Ireland, is that an awful lot of schools in the UK will have specialist primary school PE teachers. So obviously in Ireland, your class teacher teaches everything, and that includes PE, whereas in the UK, a lot of schools, the teacher will teach all of the core subjects, but actually hand their class over to the school PE teacher to deliver PE. So that PE teacher will teach PE to every class within the primary school. So yeah, I did my PGC in that, my NQT year as well. So your NQT year is your newly qualified teacher year. So once you complete your PGC, you go into your NQT year. Now your NQT year, I know it might sound like an extra year of college. It isn't. It is a year of full employment. So it's just your first year in a job, basically. You know, you've got your full wage, you've got your own class, but I suppose the only difference is once a term you will get assessed. So you'll have an external examiner will come in and just assess you, and there's that little bit of paperwork that goes with it as well. But it is essentially your first year in full-time employment. Just in terms of my own journey, I actually went and did a master's in sports psychology as well, then, just because it's an area of massive personal interest to myself. It's an area I work in outside of Portobello now as well, and obviously I can deliver on. But yeah, so in terms of once you've got your NQT year done, just to highlight this to anyone that is looking to go down that route, before you come back to Ireland, you will need to do your NQT year. So it's not just a case of doing your PGCE year and then coming back to Ireland then and looking for your teacher and council registration. You need to do your NQT year. So again, your newly qualified teacher year. And something that's, I think, important to highlight there is that if you do go down the British route, you don't actually have to do your NQT year in Britain or in the UK. It just needs to be in a British curriculum school. I know there's lots of them in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and I'm sure like loads of places across the UAE, and I'm sure lots of different places across the world. I'm not 100% sure what countries have British curriculum schools, but I know for a fact there's plenty in the UAE anyway, if people did want to complete that while getting a bit of a suntan as well. So that option is available to you. And once you've got your NQT year completed, in terms of transferring it to the teaching council registration. So basically what will happen is you'll have to contact the teaching council as soon as you've got your NQT year completed. And I really would stress that you should get in touch with them as soon as possible, because it just can be quite a tedious process. At times it can take quite a long time. But what they will do is the teaching council will ask for your documents, your qualifications, and they will assess those against the Irish equivalent. Now, basically what they will do then is they will just see how it matches up to the Irish equivalent, and if there's any areas that don't quite match or that aren't quite aligning with the Irish curriculum, you can still come back and work in Ireland, but you'll just need to be working towards plugging those gaps, basically, for want of a better term. Now, in terms of secondary school PE, if you're doing that in the UK and you're doing that in Ireland, there's not going to be massive differences, so it's not going to be a huge ordeal. Now, if you go down the route I went down in primary school, there's one glaring obvious difference is the Irish language. If you want to come and compare your British qualifications to the Irish equivalent, is obviously the Irish language. But again, you can work in schools, but you'll have to be working towards, plugging those gaps, like I said before. But I would imagine the vast majority of people on this call are looking to go down the secondary school route. So again, if they did want to go down the UK route, don't be thinking, oh God, if I go to the UK, does that mean I have to stay in the UK until I retire? No, that's not the case at all. You can just compare your qualifications basically to the Irish equivalent, and the teaching council will let you know what you need to do to, again, like I said, I know it's not the best term. I don't know what other way to put it, just to plug the gaps that you haven't already got. So yeah, that's basically the route I took. Now I kind of went full circle then, and I probably didn't expect to get into teaching third level quite as quickly as I did, but absolutely loving it. Been in Portobello now for the last 3 years. And I've had Saoirse was saying there, I think I had Saoirse in her final year, but again, it was during COVID. So again, I'm actually only seeing Saoirse's face for the first time. So it was all online then. Shane, got to know Shane over the past couple of years, 2 years, I think he's been in my class. For anyone thinking that they might not suit the course, one thing I can definitely say is that there's an absolute range of different students. You've got students coming straight from school. You've got students that are considerably older than myself. Even you've got students like Shane coming from elite sport. There's an absolute mix of all different types of students. So like Liam mentioned before as well, there's lots of actual qualified teachers who are doing the grad dip, so they're just adding PE as an extra string to their bow, I guess. So yeah, again, can't recommend LJMU, certainly enough. Great time, great university, great city, and Portobello as well. Everything's going great. Can't recommend Portobello enough as well. So hopefully that's provided some insight into maybe a different pathway into PE teaching. And again, hopefully some people have taken something from it. And I'll obviously be here at the end to answer any questions if anyone has any specific questions that I didn't cover there. But yeah, that's basically it. So I'll pass it back to you, Hannah.
That was great, Anthony. Thanks so much. And it was great to hear, I suppose, that like you can go to LJMU and still get your degree and like bring it home. And as you said, just kind of filling in those gaps. So that was great to hear. So thanks so much for sharing that, Anthony. So we're going to open up the floor now, guys. I know there's been a great amount of questions there in the inbox already, but we're going to open up the floor here now again. And if anyone has any questions, the team are all here and we're more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Now, I might just jump in there just on one thing that Anthony mentioned. And again, it's great to hear, Anthony, your experiences. Just at the moment, now it could change at the moment because there is such a shortage of teachers in Ireland. The Teaching Council is allowing people to do their first induction year back in Ireland. So say, for example, you did the BA in PE here in Ireland, then you went to Liverpool and you did the PGDE for a 1-year term. Then at the moment you then could come back and do your first year of induction that Anthony spoke about doing in England, do that in Ireland. So again, that's just at the moment because there is a shortage around teachers. So that might change, but just to flag that is the case at the moment. So again, if you were that way inclined, it could be a case of just looking at it that it's 1 year, heading overseas and then, bringing that back. Now, as I said, just that could change, but that's the current status at the moment.
Great, thanks, Liam. We actually have a question in there from Ava, and she's asking, how many points do you need for your Leaving Cert for this?
Just Ava, to let you know, we don't actually do a points system within Portobello. And the second part of your question there, you were saying in regards to how many years, if you're starting from Leaving Cert, if you take your undergraduate and then look at possibly the PME within UL route, or if you take an alternative route in that regard, you're looking at about 5 to 6 years. But for your point of view, there is no CAO points required, but we do have a subject requirement, but we can discuss that at interview as well. So you just apply directly to us.
Thanks, Jerry. We also have another question in there from Tara Quinn asking, if you were to do an arts degree followed by an educational master's and then the PE grad dip, do you need any other credits?
So I might jump in there and anyone jump in as well. So an arts degree followed by an educational master's. So we'll just say, for example, you did an arts degree, then you did an educational master's to teach in another subject area, perhaps, is what I'm maybe guessing. And then if you added the graduate diploma, then it is possible that you would still need a small top up on top of the graduate diploma. But because at that point you're likely to be already a qualified teacher, the Teaching Council won't say that, okay, you need to go and do another 2 years, full 2-year PME masters. They will say, okay, you might be just short in a certain amount of credits in certain areas. So it might be a case of doing 1 additional module or 2 additional modules. So we have had a number of students who are currently teaching in schools. They're doing the graduate diploma. And then the Teaching Council have said, okay, you just need to add an extra additional module or 2 modules on top of that graduate diploma, perhaps within the PME, and then we will register you for physical education as well. So as I said, the graduate diploma it's like a stepping stone. It will get you a lot of the way there. But I'm just to flag, and again, it does depend on everyone's background and what you did first. It is likely though that you will have to do a slight additional top up, but not a full, 2 years.
Great, thanks, Liam. We have another question in there from Claire Martin asking, hi, just wondering, is there a big demand for PE teaching in Ireland? And also asking question, Anthony, did you need any further qualifications to lecture?
No, not to lecture, no. So my qualifications were qualified qualified in PE and masters in sports psychology as well. So yeah, so I'm covered across a few different modules there in Portobello. So no, there's no additional qualification to lecture.
Great, thanks, Anthony.
And
We
just
also-
in terms of the demand there, I would say, yeah, like it's growing all the time, just because as well, like obviously we've got the new Leaving Cert PE as an examinable subject now. You know, not every school is offering it, but it is growing every year. There's new cohorts taking it on. So again, it is a thing that I think is going to grow into the future. I don't know, even Saoirse probably sees it there as well. You know, being involved, that the amount of hours for PE is growing in a lot of schools.
Yeah, exactly. So even in the school that I'm in at the moment, St. Mel's College, they have 3 full-time PE teachers. Especially now that it's Leaving Cert, they actually do offer Leaving Cert PE. So, and a lot of them just actually, 2 of them, sorry, have PE as their only subject. They don't actually have any additional subjects because there is such a workload. The only thing as well I would say is that in most universities, they offer masters in education, whether it's English, religion, music, and so on and so forth, where in Ireland, the only place you can really do the masters is in UL or maybe up in Ulster University. So, and then there's only 2 universities, whether it's DCU or UL, that actually offer PE teaching through the CAO. So there is definitely a strong demand for it because there's actually not that many, you know, opportunities to get in there as other, I suppose, subjects, if you want to go that way. So I definitely do think that there is a demand for it definitely in the future.
Thanks, Saoirse and Liam. We also have another question in there from Joseph Patrick Hennessy asking, does this course require you to write a dissertation? And also, if accepted into the graduate diploma course, is there anything you would have to prepare beforehand?
So yeah, there is a dissertation for the BA in PE. For the graduate diploma, there's not a formal dissertation. Obviously, as part of modules, you will have, you know, assignments that could be 4,000 or 5,000 words. So yeah, I suppose again it depends on which program you're speaking about. And sorry, the second part of that, Hannah, was again?
The second part of it, Liam, was just going to back up to, does this course require you to write a dissertation? And if accepted into the graduate diploma course, is there anything that we'd have to prepare beforehand?
So maybe Sharday would, just in terms of the entry requirements for the graduate diploma, I suppose there's nothing specific in terms of, you know, you can be your degree can be in a related area or it can be in an area from a completely different area. So I don't know, is there anything else you want to add to that, Sharday, in terms of entry to the graduate diploma?
No, it's other than the fact that it needs to be a level 8, and that it needs to be a 2-2 or higher, and then it's the interview route into that. Just a little bit about the interview that I would normally do with the students. I think sometimes there is this belief that we're trying to catch you out or trying to trip you up on a question. It really is not about that. Our main concern when we're interviewing is to, I suppose, make sure that you are aware of the course that you are taking on, that you're looking to apply for, to make sure that it's the correct course for your career route. Funnily enough, a lot of times when I am on the interviews with students, we talk about literally career. We talk about what they see for themselves in the future, what they're thinking about, and just kind of what has kind of led them to this point. It's really just about getting to know the student and for them to get to know us as a college and the course, and to make sure that that's the right fit. That's it. There is no test in this. Once you have your level 8 degree, your 2-2 result or higher, we kind of would ask you that you book the interview. We normally just have a chat and then that's it from there.
Great, thanks, Sharday. There's another question actually in Sharday for yourself, and it's asking about the PGCEI qualification, and they're wondering, where does this fit into becoming a qualified teacher? I suppose they're probably asking in terms of the qualification, what relation it is to PE teaching.
Of course. Aaron, that is, we've been actually chatting about this. So there is a little bit of information in it around this. Okay, so the PGCEI has come out. It is one academic year. It's 60 credits. It is a no speciality subject. It is a teaching qualification. And where this fits in is if you have your level 8 degree, you add the PGCEI, which is a level 9, okay? From here, what we would be doing and what we're assisting our very first cohort to do is to apply for qualified teacher status. The qualified teacher status, and this is where it gets tricky, if you are directly out of college and you go from your degree into the PGCEI, you're not going to be able to apply for QTS. You do need experience in teaching. So if you have had a couple of years of work placement, or if you've had to do work placement previously, you do some work placement in the graduate diploma. I know myself and Aaron were talking about the graduate diploma and the PGCEI specifically. You need, off the top of my head, I think it's like 120 hours that you will need to apply for the QTS, which is qualified teacher status, via an assessment only route. Okay, so you have your undergraduate degree, you have the PGCEI. Within that PGCEI, you'll be doing placement, and then you will need another year of work placement as an unregistered teacher before you can actually go and apply for that QTS via an assessment only route. Where this falls in for students in Ireland is once you have that qualified teacher status, you're using that qualified teacher status and you're going to apply to the Teaching Council of Ireland in order to recognise it. What normally happens, and they've actually delayed the need to do the induction here in the country that you have qualified, as Liam was mentioning earlier, and you can actually register, if you register before the 1st of February 2024, you are actually allowed to do that induction here in Ireland as well. So what you will get is a temporary Teaching Council number for that time that you are doing your induction here with your QTS over in Ireland. And after that year, you then get your full recognised Teaching Council number. That's not too complicated. That's taken me about 6 months to wrap my head around. So I do not. If you do have any other questions in regards to that, I will put my details in the chat as well.
Great, thanks so much, Sharday. We have another question in there, Anthony, directed for yourself. It's asking, Anthony, could you speak more about the PGC course in Liverpool John Moore in terms of PE teaching for primary school, in terms of how the courses was run, the modules, etc.?
All right, so actually, yeah, sorry, one thing I should have actually stated when I was talking earlier was, so my undergraduate degree was in Liverpool John Moores University, but again, like I said, I wanted to get into the primary side of things, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that LGMU at that time might not have been offering a PGCE. So my PGCE was actually with the University of Chester. So that addition, it was my undergrad was with LGMU, my additional year was with the University of Chester. But just how it was structured was, it was structured 70% and 30%. So 70% we were out on placement and 30% we were in the classroom. So basically the way it was, there was 2 different placement schools. So in the first third of the year, I guess we were in one placement school. The second third we were in a different one, and then for the final third we went back to our original placement school. And just like most placements, we were expected to observe initially and just maybe get given smaller groups to work with then and build our way up to working with full class teaching. In terms of the modules that we were looking at, so again, it was primary, so it was very much just the core subjects, because we're also being trained to be primary school teachers, not just, but it was with PE specialism. So yeah, it was just your main subjects. That's, you're probably being a bit too hard on me now, because I'm just trying to remember. This is going back a few years off the top of my head. I can't quite remember what they were called, but you're basically what you were looking at just was your core subjects. But you were doing an awful lot of placements. Like I said, it was 70%, 30%. So the vast majority of the time you were out and building up your experience in classrooms. And in terms of the assessments, then at the end, there was a lot of, just like we actually have in our placements modules here. There was a lot of reflective writing and doing presentations, reflecting on the experience that you've had. So again, they really stressed that, I suppose, that was the year to make your mistakes, really. You know, it wasn't the be all and end all. If the sessions you delivered weren't great, it was more just how you actually reflected on it and say, okay, well, if I was to do it again, what would I do differently? But yeah, hopefully that's given a bit of a breakdown as to how a PGCE year looks.
Absolutely, Anthony. Thank you so much. So guys, I think that's all the questions in the inbox. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you everyone so much for joining this webinar. We really, really hope you found it helpful. Of course, if you think of any questions tonight, tomorrow, next week, or whenever, feel free to reach out to any of us and we'd be more than happy to help. Sade actually left her contact details at the very top of the chat. So yeah, feel free to reach out whenever you have any questions. So thank you everyone so much, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Hannah. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so many, guys. Bye.
Everyone.